your energy from food, right? So we can have a limited amount. So we have to be very efficient and economical with it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how can we get more O2?
Maybe like if we have a way to increase the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen, that could be one way. Another way could be like the actual movement of oxygen from our blood to the working tissue. So maybe that's to do like distance, like maybe if the red blood cell is just like really near the working tissue, it has a shorter distance to diffuse and therefore less like resistance and therefore like a higher flux, like a higher movement.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, so hemoglobin carries the O2 in the blood, can actually release more oxygen into exercising muscles. But something even before that, like something in a more bigger scale, or I should say in a bigger picture scale, right? So one thing that you can, how do you get oxygen in general?
Through breathing.
Okay, so one way that we can increase more oxygen is to have like a more enhanced breathing, right? So maybe deeper breath, more, if we're going to be using more evolutionary terms, maybe a different adaptation in the way that our lungs work, or the efficiency of our lungs, how much oxygen we're able to draw out. So if we have an enhanced breathing mechanism, we're able to be to get more oxygen in and be able to take it, right?
It's kind of like where like birds are able to, and that's like not mammalian, but like birds are able to, they don't have like the dead space that humans have, so like they have like a very efficient airflow because it's like not mixing with air, like stale air, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one way. So when we're getting the breathing mechanism, right? When we're getting our oxygen into our lungs, where does the oxygen go from there?
Like after it's left, like
after when we bring it into our lungs, yeah. Once leave after that, what is the next step?
Transfer of oxygen through the blood to the working tissue.
So we have to go from the transfer of oxygen from the lungs to the blood into
the blood cell.
Right, but where does the blood travel to?
The working tissue.
Into the heart first.
Oh, I see.
Right, because when we're getting, so the way that it works is we get deoxygenated blood after it's already releases oxygen into any muscle or whatever tissue that it's going to. We'll get that. It's going to travel up to the lungs. That from there is going to get more oxygen, and it's going to travel down into the heart, right? And then to the heart first.
The heart, and then
the heart. What does the heart?
The heart is going to contract and then pump and send the blood to the working tissue.
Right. So it's going to pump it, right? So another way that we can get more O2, besides breathing in, is increase heart rate. So a lot of times when we're exercising and we're using more energy, our breathing gets, that's what they tell you to practice, like deeper breathing.
Yeah.
And we're going to be getting more oxygen in, and your heart rate increases because it's going to start pumping all that oxygenated blood, right?
Like increased heart rate, increased like stroke volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be an increased heart rate, and it's going to have an increased force because it needs to pump out more oxygen to the muscle, right? So then after that, one other mechanism that can work on that is if we're following the full cycle on that, the blood can be diverted specifically to the muscles that are being working. So it's going to have dilation of the blood vessels to supplying those muscles. So now that you have more oxygen from breathing, and then more oxygen in your blood, and your heart pumped it out more, those muscles that are being supplied by that blood are going to dilate the blood vessels. So you're going to get an increased amount of oxygen now in there, right? So, and I think I mentioned before, the hemoglobin that carries that oxygen can release more O2 into those muscles. So why? Oh, sorry.
It's like the idea that like you like your blood vessel here, and then you said you have vasodilation of the blood vessel, and like this is the working tissue. So like there's just like a larger volume of blood in this area.
Yeah, so you have more blood being put in there, but not just more blood, it's more oxygenated.
Okay.
That makes sense. So you're gonna have more oxygen there, so that's gonna more oxygen, more nutrients, so that's going to trigger the oxidative phosphorylation where we're going to get the ATP, that we're going to get the energy for the contraction of the muscles. And so when muscles contract and we have that different like lever or moment or something, we're going to be getting more force in it. So we're able to work those muscles and either travel faster, be faster, run faster, walk faster, or whatever it is, because we're using all the energy into it. So why is energy expenditure something that we worry about, not just in our project, but like in general? Like, why is it important where how we use our energy?
Yeah, I think it's important for like rate in, rate out. So like if we end up expending more energy than we are able to replace with through like our diet, then we won't be able to sustain like a higher fitness and be able to reproduce, maintain our body, grow, etc.
All right, so why don't we put that in a graph? Why don't we put that in like a way so we can visualize where our energy is being allocated?
Okay. So like, just like a line graph or like a chart or like.
Well, we want to do like a pie graph instead. That way we can visualize where our energy is being mostly allocated.
Okay. So, and this is like just at any given point in life, or?
Yeah. So I mean, like, well, let's like ideally the 3 ways that we can allocate our energy. So you mentioned them actually already.
Oh, okay, growth.
Yeah. You also said increased fitness. So biological terms, what is the fitness? Yes, reproduction.
And like homeostasis, like maintenance.
Okay.
Is there just concerning these right now?
Yeah. So like when we're doing so like evolutionary terms, those are what we deem to be the big ones where energy is being allocated to. Why would that be important for reproduction though, or for evolution though?
Well, because if we're in a position of life where maybe we have to expend more energy to growth, and there's like less to reproduction, or then like later on, like at a time when the mammal is like able to undergo reproduction, you might want to expend more energy here because that'll like increase their fitness.
Right. So if we do that through here, the reason that I want a pie graph instead is that if we can think about this as a finite amount of energy, you only have different ways to do that. So why don't you just draw that, and like a perfect balanced energy expenditure or energy allocation.
And for maintenance, is that including like the energy that we expend to find food? Like, you know what I mean? Because like, wouldn't we also expend energy, because like we're using energy for growth, using energy for reproduction, we're using energy for maintenance, like the homeostatic mechanisms within the body. But then also like, does this maintenance include like energy of locomotion? Yeah,
so anything that we need to maintain our bodies. So like if it's gonna be an increase, so we use locomotion as to say like the amount of distance that you have to travel to get food or to just be able to survive, hide in your cave, whatever it is. If we're using the animal, the hominin mechanism on it, right? So the thing with this is that it's a mailing thing. We can use the same model for animals. I think all the mammals would be able to do that. And if we're going to be using it as hominin, for hominins, this also works. So like, let's say we're talking about hominin evolution, right? So from our hominin lineage, what is something that's different between all the other hominins and us? In other words, what is something that we've seen, a trend that we've seen from our human ancestors up to now?
The body. Okay, yeah, like stature.
Yeah, stature,
like the
right?
length of the limbs, yeah.
So we have from our early hominins, maybe we'll have Australopithecus here, Australopithecus afarensis, and we're going to be going up until we get to Homo sapiens, right? So what we're seeing, if we use it as a function of, so this would be stature, right? As we're increasing in stature.
And this is just like over time.
Yeah, we'll do this over time, and millions of years. Why not? Because we have what 4.3 million years over here. So a trend that we've seen is that we've gone taller as we go through, right? So one aspect of stature as we're going through is we grow in a long tree, right? So that means everything grows at the same rate kind of thing. So what we see here is let's look at leg length because we're talking about locomotion, right? So we see an increase in leg length throughout.
Yeah.
So as the same measure on that, right?
Yeah.
So one of the thoughts behind that is as we became bipedal, as we started to stand up, right?